for some reason, throughout my life, I've had the inclination to convince people my way of thinking. Like, especially when I learned new information that to me was valuable, that would serve my life. Like, I would immediately seek other people that I could convince or I could persuade to think like I am now thinking. And I honestly don't know why I've always been like that. I think it comes from good intentions. Like, I've never had bad intentions to brainwash people into being my slave or serving me or anything like that. Like, it's always came from a good place, but I don't know why I've always been like that. Like, as soon as I come across information that makes sense to me, that I can apply to my life, I always want to go out and tell everybody about the good news. And it's been a very hard lesson to learn. And that's why, perfect example is this YouTube channel. Like, I'm always constantly putting my opinion and ideas out there. And I think this is a good way for me to do it. Like, I guess instead of going out face to face to try to convince people, which I realized was a waste of time, I now can just put it on the internet and people can decide for themselves if they want to hear this stuff or not. But that's not really the point of this video. I want to talk about why change is difficult and why people, like, not to say that you should go out and try to convince everybody of your way of thinking, but if you are that kind of person, you have to realize why people reject your thoughts and your way of living. And I don't know, I don't have the answers for this. Like, I don't know exactly why, but I definitely have some theories on why people don't like new information. And I would say that the biggest reason, and the reason for this first reason, I've noticed this in myself. And this is something that you might not be able to acknowledge because you never thought about it, but we don't like to change because that means we have to dispose of the old way we were doing things. Like, for example, in my own life, I worked out in the gym a certain way that I was taught from football. You know, because in football you want to work on explosive, heavy weight, and I was indoctrinated into training that specific way for multiple, at least 4 or 5 years. So it was a habit, like muscle memory type stuff, but I didn't focus on technique. I didn't focus on anything else but just doing it as fast and as explosive as I could. And that makes sense for football. But when I stopped playing football and I started to learn about a different style of working out, it really challenged everything I knew about weights. Like, I remember working out with people and they were trying to teach me, and I just rejected all the information without even considering their intentions or trying to seek the truth. All I knew was what I knew. I wasn't willing to absorb and accept new information that probably would have helped me a lot more. So, I know that when you come across new information, no matter how much better or right it is, we don't like to be wrong, because when we accept new information, we are essentially admitting that the old information is either outdated or just outright wrong. And when we have wrong information, we feel betrayed. We feel stupid. We feel like a failure. We feel like we have been manipulated. And we don't like those feelings. So for example, like especially political beliefs and religious beliefs. Try to, like if you're an atheist or secular or agnostic, go talk to a Christian and tell them God doesn't exist. 9 times out of 10, they may become emotional about it. And that's because it's new information and it's challenging their beliefs, and it's challenging the way they were brought up. It's challenging all the time they've spent in church every Sunday, every Wednesday. They don't want to be wrong. And now they're so invested in something that they're definitely not going to give it up because they don't want to feel like they've wasted their time. Just like somebody that's been in a career that they might not love, but they've been in it for 10 years, and they say, well, I've been here 10 years, I might as well just stick it out. It's because they don't want to start over. They don't want to start from scratch and give up their old way of thinking. Because as human beings, we like the path of least resistance. And most of our thoughts have already been established by other people. And we can just adapt and adopt other people's view of the world instead of creating our own. And then once we adopt a certain way of thinking, it's very hard to adopt any new information that may contradict it. Because our ego does not like to be wrong. And we do not want to feel stupid. We don't want to waste our time. Even though many of us do exactly that. Like whether it comes to dieting, religion, politics, what type of vehicle you drive, the type of people you hang around. Like, I mean, some of the more examples, like for me, like I've listened to certain YouTube creators for years and years and years, like literally, and then stuff comes out that I didn't know about these people, and they end up being like frauds. They end up being like really bad people behind the scenes, like really bad stuff. There's been a couple creators where I was like, I love these people. Like I'm like, oh my God, like it was like my daily dose of medicine to watch their videos or to listen to their podcast, and then I come across information that contradicts everything they believe or I thought they believed in. And initially I'm in denial about it. I'm like, no, that's not them. They wouldn't do that. I've been listening to them for a while. And now I'm biased towards this person because of the time I've invested into them. So now I'm presented with facts and evidence that is contradictory of who they presented themselves as. And it's like an addiction. Like you got to admit that there's a problem, and then you got to fix the problem, and then you're in denial, and it's like grieving. Like, so this is just to prove the point that new information isn't always the best thing, even if it's right, even if it's better information. So just being aware of this will help yourself to realize your own biases and realize your own weakness when it comes to listening and absorbing new information that may be better for you. Don't just reject every piece of information that you hear or see. Maybe it's better for you. So I guess that's the whole message, is through me trying to persuade people the way I think, I realized why people are so set in stone and why people are so rigid about their thoughts. And then I looked in the mirror and realized I am just like these people. I am rigid about my thoughts. I do have high levels of conviction for the things that I believe. And so by acknowledging that I'm just like the people that I'm confused by, I can put my guard down and then just listen more like in depth to new information and just cross-examine it and see if it works and makes sense for me. And I guess that is the biggest benefit of understanding why we don't like change, is that once you understand why we don't like to change, you can like fight against those reasons and actually change. And change won't be so abrupt and so difficult and so painful. You can make smoother transitions by acknowledging the ego, by acknowledging our weaknesses to be biased and to have high convictions for things that we believe just because we've believed it for a long time. So let me know what you think about this, and let me know some beliefs that you have or you have had in the past that maybe you changed. Like for me, I grew up religious in a Christian family, and now I'm more secular and leaning more towards atheism, but I would say right now I'm agnostic. So I don't really believe in any God, but I do believe there may be a God. There's just no evidence. So, and I'm just saying that because, just to give you an example of how I've changed the way I've thought, and that was very painful. And I didn't like it, and I was embarrassed, and I was ashamed, and I was just didn't feel too good about that. But I finally came to terms with that, and I feel better now. So let me know in the comments if you have had a radical change in any area of your life when it comes to career, religion, dieting, anything. It doesn't matter. Let me know if you've changed the way you've thought from the time you were younger to now, or maybe it's political or something. But anyway, hope you enjoy. Thanks.